The trading station orbited a dying red dwarf, its metal corridors filled with the desperate and the destitute. Captain Jake Morrison had seen poverty across 100 worlds, but nothing quite prepared him for the sight of the young woman kneeling before him in the dingy cantina. She was Valorian, her skin possessing that characteristic pale blue luminescence that marked her species. Her clothes were little more than rags, and her large violet eyes held a desperation that made his chest tighten. She pressed her forehead to the grimy floor. "Please," she whispered in accented but clear English. "I beg you, human, take me as your servant. I will work without rest. I will ask for nothing but scraps. Please." Jake shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his half-finished drink forgotten. Around them, other patrons of various species watched with varying degrees of interest and indifference. This kind of scene was not uncommon in the outer reaches, where the collapse of the Valorian Empire had left millions displaced and starving. "Get up," Jake said quietly. "You don't need to kneel." She looked up at him with those enormous eyes, confusion flickering across her delicate features. "You refuse?" "Please, I am young and strong. I can clean, cook, maintain systems. I know 7 languages. I can." I said, "Get up." His tone was firmer this time, but not unkind. Slowly she rose to her feet, swaying slightly. Jake noticed how thin she was, how her hands trembled. When was the last time she had eaten properly? He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Sit down." She hesitated, then obeyed, perching on the edge of the seat as if ready to flee at any moment. Jake studied her carefully. The Valorians had once been a proud civilization, their empire spanning dozens of systems. Then the plague had come, followed by economic collapse and civil war. Now their people scattered across the galaxy, many reduced to begging or worse. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lyra," she answered softly. "Lyra of House Velmara. Though that means nothing now. When did you last eat, Lyra?" She looked down at her hands. 3 days ago. A merchant gave me half a ration bar." Jake flagged down the server droid and ordered a full meal. Lyra's eyes widened as the food arrived, a steaming plate of protein, vegetables, and bread. She looked at him questioningly. "Eat," he said simply. She fell upon the food with barely controlled desperation, trying to maintain some dignity, but clearly ravenous. Jake watched, feeling a familiar anger rising in his chest. The galaxy was full of so-called civilized species who turned their backs on refugees, who exploited the desperate, who treated people like commodities. Humans had been the newcomers to galactic society, arriving just 50 years ago with their faster-than-light drives and their stubborn idealism. The older races had expected humanity to fall in line, to accept the established order. Instead, Earth had become a haven for refugees, a voice for the displaced, a thorn in the side of exploitation everywhere. When Lyra finally finished eating, she looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. I do not know how to repay such kindness." "You don't need to repay kindness," Jake said. "That's not how it works where I come from." "Then you are truly from Earth," she said wonderingly. "I had heard stories, but I thought they were just tales the desperate tell themselves. That humans were different, that they helped without expecting servitude in return." Jake leaned back in his chair. "Look, I'm not going to take you as a servant. That's not happening." Her face fell, new tears welling up. "Please, I have nowhere else to go. The Relthian merchants want slaves, not servants. The Korthan will not hire refugees. The station authorities will deport me to a processing center where I will likely die. You are my last hope." "I said I won't take you as a servant," Jake repeated, holding up a hand as she started to protest. "But I do need a crew member. My communications officer left last month to get married. The position pays standard wages, includes quarters and meals, and comes with full benefits under Earth's merchant marine regulations. Lyra stared at him as if he had spoken in an alien tongue. I do not understand. You would hire me? Pay me wages? But I am nothing, a refugee without status or credentials. Can you do the job? Jake asked. You said you know 7 languages. Can you handle ship communications, translate, manage diplomatic protocols? Yes, she said quickly. I was educated in the Imperial Academy before the fall. I can do all these things and more. Then the job's yours, if you want it. We leave in 6 hours. She continued to stare at him, and then suddenly she was kneeling again, reaching for his hands. You honor me beyond measure. I swear I will serve you faithfully until— Stop. Jake gently pulled his hands away and stood up. You're not serving me. You're working with me. There's a difference. On my ship, everyone's part of the crew. We work together, we watch each other's backs, and nobody kneels to anybody. Understood? Lyra rose slowly, something like wonder dawning in her eyes. This is truly the human way. It's supposed to be everyone's way, Jake said. But yeah, we try to practice what we preach. Come on, I'll show you to the ship and get you set up with quarters. You probably want a shower and some rest before we launch. As they walked through the station's corridors, Lyra stayed close to his side. She was still processing what had happened, still seeming to expect the offer to be revoked or revealed as some cruel joke. The ship, Wandering Star, was a medium-sized freighter of Earth design. Clean lines, efficient systems, and built with crew comfort in mind rather than just profit margins. The rest of the crew consisted of 5 others, all human except for one Talarian engineer. Jake introduced Lyra to everyone, explaining her role. The crew welcomed her warmly, and Jake watched as confusion gave way to tentative hope on her face. Nobody asked her to prove herself. Nobody questioned her worth. They simply accepted her as one of them. Later, after Lyra had cleaned up and rested, she came to find Jake on the bridge. The ship was in flight now, headed toward the core systems with a cargo of rare metals. Captain Morrison, she said formally. Just Jake is fine. She nodded slowly, still adjusting. Jake, then. I must ask you something. Why did you help me? You could have simply paid for my meal and walked away. Why offer me this position? Jake was quiet for a moment, watching the stars streak past the viewport. About 100 years ago, back on Earth, my great-grandfather was a refugee. He fled a war, came to a new country with nothing but the clothes on his back. People helped him, gave him work, treated him with dignity. He always said he'd never forget that kindness, and he passed that lesson down through the family. He turned to look at her. Besides, humans know what it's like to be the underdog. For most of our history, we struggled and fought and survived. We're not about to turn our backs on others, going through the same thing just because we made it to the stars. Other species say humans are soft, Lyra said, that your compassion makes you weak. Jake smiled grimly. Let them think that. Meanwhile, we'll keep building alliances with the people they cast aside. We'll keep showing that there's another way to do things. And when it matters, when the chips are down, we'll have friends across the galaxy while they'll only have servants they can't trust and allies they bought. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she drew herself up straight, and for the first time since he'd met her, Jake saw a glimpse of the imperial dignity she must have once possessed. You have given me back something I thought lost forever, she said. Not just survival, but hope. Not just employment, but dignity. I will work hard to prove worthy of this chance. Just be yourself, Jake said. That's all anyone can ask. Over the following weeks, Lyra proved to be an exceptional communications officer. Her knowledge of languages and cultures made negotiations smoother, and her aristocratic training in diplomacy opened doors that had previously been closed. But more than that, Jake watched as she slowly transformed from a desperate refugee into a confident crew member. She laughed with the others during meals. She offered opinions in crew meetings. She stood tall instead of hunching, met people's eyes instead of looking down. The fearful desperation faded from her face, replaced by determination, and growing joy got one evening. 6 months into her service, Jake found her in the observation lounge, watching the stars. "Feeling homesick?" he asked, joining her. "I was just thinking," she said, "about how I begged you to take me as a servant. How I was willing to give up everything just to survive." "It was a desperate situation," Jake said. "No shame in that." "No," she agreed. "But now I understand what you tried to tell me that first day. The difference between serving and working together. I am not your servant, and I never was. I am your colleague, your crew member, your friend." She turned to him with a smile that transformed her face. "Thank you for showing me that I still had value when I had forgotten it myself. Thank you for the human way." Jake shrugged, slightly embarrassed. "Just doing what's right." "Perhaps," Lyra said. "But in a galaxy where so many do what is easy or profitable instead, doing what is right makes all the difference."